I mean, we move very quickly because we started this, announced it on June 30th, and it closed on July 8th. So like in 27 calendar days since the close, we've moved at very high velocity um, to acquire this ETH quickly. But I think it's important because MicroStrategy really has demonstrated that his 30 times return, his pivot when MicroStrategy was $13 in August 2020 to now, Bitcoin made a big step move from 11,000 to 120,000, but his treasury strategy delivered another 20x on top of that. That's how he got a 30x total return. And I think Ethereum is one of the biggest macro trades over the next decade. So we want to move quickly because we want to get as much ETH at, 3,500 or whatever, before it makes its step function gain, similar to what Bitcoin's done in the last 5 years.
Tom Lee dives into treasuries, Ethereum dominance, and Wall Street shifts. Big moves ahead. Let's watch to get the edge.
MicroStrategy might be an easier way for someone to get to 1 million Bitcoin. So I call that a sovereign put. MicroStrategy's achieved the 3% in 5 years. So they were buying basically 16 cents worth of Bitcoin a day, every day for the last 5 years. Bitmine if you look at it from inception to now, has added about 80 cents to $1 per day in Ethereum. So it's about 12 times faster than MicroStrategy. So we would be on a path to get to 5%, presumably like at 12 times the speed of MicroStrategy. Well, first, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is the way, and our work on the Fundstrat side shows Bitcoin can get to the $1.5 million per coin. So Bitcoin still has a huge story ahead. Yeah, but Bitcoin and Ethereum operate in different parts of how the world is financializing. And that's the principal difference to me, because Ethereum represents the world financializing onto the blockchain, which is not Bitcoin's goal, and the AI world, creating basically a digitally native way to bridge the real world and digital security. So that's, to me, why someone wants to own Ethereum treasuries, because I would buy MicroStrategy if I was looking at this. And by the way, it is a granny shot in the Fundstrat ETF. But the reason is that MicroStrategy is growing your Bitcoin holdings every day. So you're going to outperform Bitcoin. Ethereum treasuries are really the only way for a U.S. equity investor to get exposure to Ethereum, unless they're buying ETH directly or an ETH ETF. But if you're an institution and this is one of the biggest themes, I don't think they're going to just say, well, in my fund, my $50 billion large cap fund, Ethereum's the biggest trade, so I'll buy JP Morgan. They might, but they're better off saying, how can I be directly exposed to Ethereum? And they can't really buy an Ethereum ETF because that's not within the parameters of their fund. So I think, to me, the U.S. equity market professional investor looks at Ethereum treasuries as really the only way to get exposure to ETH as a macro trade. And that's why, you've seen like the Cathie Woods make a big investment in Bitmine, and Bill Miller. Today, we announced that he made a major investment last week into Bitmine. So they're institutional investors. They're both of those folks are OGs in crypto, realize this is the best way to have macro exposure to Ethereum.
Bitcoin may be setting the stage for another powerful surge. And if history is any guide, the next move could be big. According to popular trader Galaxy, Bitcoin is now echoing a familiar pattern from late 2024, a time when BTC launched from $70,000 all the way to $108,000 after successfully retesting a key support level. Right now, BTC/USD appears to be in the middle of a similar retest, and if it holds, the market could see a fresh 50% gain. Galaxy pointed out that this interesting spot in Bitcoin's chart resembles the lead-up to November 2024's breakout past the old all-time high of $73,800. Back then, Bitcoin flipped a resistance trend line into support, a classic move that triggered price discovery. This time around, the trend line is ascending rather than descending, but the structure looks close enough for traders to take notice. While the macro backdrop is different, with U.S. trade tariffs and other economic headwinds, the technical setup is once again drawing attention. Crucially, analysts don't see a return to recent swing lows. Instead, they're eyeing January's $109,300 peak as a potential long-term support level. Recent dips, like the brief drop below $112,000, may simply be higher lows in a strengthening bullish trend.
I think the upside case for ETH is actually higher than, let's say, Bitcoin did 100x. Could Ethereum do 100x? I mean, Joe Lubin sort of has that kind of upside in his mind. Because Joe and I are in dialogue. I mean, we are really partners in trying to push ETH as a treasury, as a digital infrastructure. And I think that could happen because there is probably a significant probability that Ethereum could flip Bitcoin as well in terms of network value. And then, if if someone thinks Bitcoin's at $1 million, then imagine what it means for Ethereum, because it is not just Wall Street financializing onto blockchain, but it's AI, but it's also part of the U.S. focus on AI dominance, right? Ethereum plays a strategic role there. Now, if MicroStrategy had triple the upside of Bitcoin, then that means, in theory, the Ethereum treasuries could triple whatever Ethereum could do. So, I don't think you're going to go wrong saying that the Ethereum treasuries are a good investment class. But if you're looking at what BitMine's doing, it's those other things I was saying distinguish it. And that's why, maybe we will be at the front end of that. But they should all do well because Ethereum itself is undervalued.
The crypto market is heating up again as Bitcoin, Ether, and XRP all posted solid gains, pushing investor sentiment back into greed territory. The widely followed Crypto Fear and Greed Index jumped to 62 out of 100 on Thursday, marking a strong recovery from neutral just a day earlier. This shift follows several choppy days in the market, where Bitcoin dropped to $112,000 over the weekend, a sharp pullback from its all-time high of $123,100 in mid-July. Now trading at around $114,298, Bitcoin's modest 1% rise is being seen as a signal of growing stability. Analysts say this bump is more than just a small rally. It reflects renewed confidence that the bull trend isn't over. On-chain data from Glassnode shows that short-term holders are taking fewer profits, suggesting conviction is rising among traders. The broader market is also showing strength. Ether climbed over 2%, currently priced near $3,664, while XRP gained more than 2% to trade around $2.97. Solana saw even larger gains, pushing above $167. Analysts are now watching closely for a potential breakout. Michael Vendepope noted Bitcoin is at resistance again, while trader Ted believes it could soon hit $125,000, a move that may trigger massive liquidations and another wave of excitement. If you've been watching so far, thank you so much for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to Bitcoin Zella for daily news all for free. That's all for today's video. Until next time.